So, folks, we gotta talk about Donald Trump having horrific poll numbers. Just horrific poll numbers. The idea with Donald Trump's State of the Union address was that he was trying to change course a little bit while also doubling down on things that are traditionally seen as his strengths or the strengths that Republicans have, like uh, being better on finances, being better on immigration, at least in the conventional wisdom. We all know that Republicans are not better on either of those things, but the general public's perception is that, you know, Republicans are better on those things. Well, that goal was not achieved with the State of the Union, according to some new polling out from G. Elliott Morris over at Strength in Numbers. Let's take a look here. After the State of the Union, voters see Trump as focused on wrong issues. He is mostly focused on the issues that matter most to me, 30%. He's mostly focused on other things, 57%, and 13% not sure. Now, that's really, really bad considering this was supposed to be the speech where he showed that he was back on track. Like, oh, yeah, we know that we've been falling in the poll numbers on everything, but here's our plan, our roadmap to get back on track. He did not succeed with that. He didn't succeed with that one bit. All right. Let's take a look at this. Again, this is from Strength in Numbers /Verisite. People who watched the State of the Union think Trump focused on immigration, deportations, and not affordability. Issue most important to me personally, prices and inflation by far, 29% responded that. And Trump spent 9% of his speech talking about that issue. 17% jobs in the economy, that roughly tracks. 14% of his speech was about that. But only 6% of respondents thought that immigration was the top issue. And he spent 21% of his speech talking about that. And like the rest of his speech was predominantly made up of talking about deportation, which people do not really give a shit about. At least as far as like their number one issue. Most of his speech was then taken up by, giving out medals and talking about hockey with a bunch of like chuckleheads. Like what he did here is show how out of touch he is. Yet the wild part is that none of the people cared about trans people. Isn't that strange? Isn't that so strange? 14% of people said their number one issue was healthcare. He only spent 2% of his speech on that. He was just very out of touch with what people actually care about. Which is, I want to say, like, something that is becoming more and more apparent, I think, to Republicans, is how divorced he is from their everyday lived experience. Like, he does not give a shit about you and will throw you under the bus, And so, it's pretty interesting to see, especially on the issues over time, his approval rating here. And you can see, he has reached record lows on border security, crime and public safety perception, immigration, deportations, government funding and social programs, healthcare, prices, inflation. He's underwater on basically everything at this point. It's a really bad situation if you are Donald Trump. Well, I want to say it's devastating, but I think something even more devastating came out in some polls. All right, which is this poll also, again, from Elliott Morris in Strength in Numbers. Americans call Republicans extreme and Democrats weak. So basically from this polling, it's just public perceptions on the Republican Party and the Democratic Party broadly. And what you'll notice here is that, only 31% of Democrats think the Democratic Party comes across as tough. Only 31% thinks they come across as cruel. Only 42 think that Democrats are extreme. Interestingly, only 43% of respondents see the Democratic Party as elitist, which is a colossal flip because apparently now the majority of Americans view Republicans as the elites. The very elites that Republicans have campaigned about opposing that's now the perception that they have among the general population. And what is really important about that is this is the perfect opportunity to deploy that Epstein class rhetoric. We are in the perfect environment right now for every single Democrat running in the midterms to start talking about how their opponents are propped up by the Epstein class. This should be like commonplace. It should be the number one message that they put out there every single time they get in front of a microphone. Every single time they get in front of a microphone, they have to be talking about how Republicans are elitists, Republicans are, working for the Epstein class, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? We shouldn't count on them doing jack shit. I'm not saying we should count on them, but I am saying that that's what they should do. Does that make sense? There's a difference between saying, well, you should all dependably rely on Democrats to do this, and saying that's what they should do. Now, whether or not they will remains to be seen. Some of them are, but now Democrats are seen as competent. They're seen as principled, but overwhelmingly they're seen as weak, empathetic, ineffective, and that's a problem. Essentially, what this poll says to me is that the Chuck Schumer wing needs to fucking go. The Chuck Schumer wing of this needs to go. And more people need to start stepping up and calling out Donald Trump as a child predator. More people need to start stepping up and talking about how, Mitch McConnell is a supporter of the Epstein class. More of this needs to happen. This needs to happen from every single Democrat who has the spine to do it. And Democrats who don't have the spine need to fucking leave. I think that that's just readily apparent from this. And it's also dictating how the Trump administration is responding to the upcoming midterms, right? So, for example, earlier yesterday, the Justice Department launched a lawsuit against 5 Republican states, mostly Republican states, Utah, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Kentucky, and New Jersey. So 4 Republican states, 1 Democratic state, in order to obtain their voter registration databases with unredacted information. This is only something you do if you're intending to try and rig the election. It's only something you're trying to do if you're trying to come up with bullshit excuses to, undo democracy, right? And the fact that they are even targeting Republican states, that is a mark of desperation. It is a fucking mark of desperation because they are now polling so low that they're worried they're going to be losing Republican states. Okay? That's how bad the polling is right now for Donald Trump and the wider Republican Party. And what's going on as well is the fact that Republicans can't really escape from the fact that they are ghouls and working on the orders of even larger, eviler ghouls. I mean, look at this. Look at this clip from a Republican senator talking about the American people.
I think Republicans are doing right now. You're involved closely with agriculture. You're on the committee. Price of food is high. We just did a story this week on price of beef continuing to go up. What are Republicans doing to get this cost of living under control?
Well, the good thing is we passed what we call the One Big Beautiful Bill. There are so many things in there. Just the child tax credits, that will affect 40 million families. There are all the reduction to make the cuts permanent. It is so many opportunities there that once that they go into play, just with getting your tax refund in 2026 is going to be bigger. And once we can get those things implemented, you're going to see a difference. But right now, the cost of fuel. Everything in this place at one time was on a truck. So anytime you go to purchase anything, if you're going to build anything, The price of fuel affects everything. So with that being down, you know, with the Gulf of America right out our door right here, beautiful Gulf Coast, no permitting, no drilling for 4 years, no permitting. So now that we can undo some of those cumbersome things that restricted energy production, you're even going to see that even in a more significant way. But it is on everybody's mind. You know, it certainly is me at my house. And, you know, you have so many proteins to choose from, and all commodities go through peaks and valleys. You know, it is a global market. But we will be seeing a difference, I truly believe, because of so many things.
What do you think?
People are struggling. How are you going to help them? Well, let me tell you about this BS bill that gets rid healthcare funding and gives it to billionaires.
You have so many proteins to choose from. Just eat some proteins. Just eat. You can eat the bugs. Did you know that bugs are free and will live in your house and/or apartment? That's a great way to cut some costs. Eat some proteins. Like, it's genuinely unhinged stuff. This cannot, like, I'm sorry, if this person represents you, you know that she's fucking you over. She's fucking you over, and all the Republicans know it, all of the Democrats know it, she knows it. And I mean, like, you can't really watch clips from this administration or anyone who is remotely supportive of it without being like, oh, well, you know, look, they're doing their best. Like, no, I'm sorry. It's all batshit.
America is approaching its 250th birthday. Many patriots are seeking ways to celebrate the patriotism now spreading to on-air broadcasts. Mr. Chairman, you announced your Pledge America campaign, encouraging broadcasters to air more pro-America content, such as starting each day with the Star-Spangled Banner or the Pledge of Allegiance. Tell us more. What kind of a response are you getting?
Yeah, no. It's totally normal to broadcast a Pledge of Allegiance to the great leader every day. Super cool and normal. Definitely nothing sinister going on here. You must pledge your allegiance to the great leader, or else. And I want to highlight that, again, this administration doesn't push through ideas like, oh, we'll air the Pledge of Allegiance every day on television before every broadcast, like, without the knowledge behind the scenes that they are deeply unpopular. They are deeply unpopular, and they're trying to create the impression that they're popular. They're trying to enforce compliance. They're trying to do all these things, and it's just, I don't think it's working, but they're going to try it, you know? And on top of that, you don't necessarily, look, if things are going well, you don't need one of your best billionaire friends in charge of all of the media. If you are winning the hearts and minds of the American people, you don't need to have your BFF take over all of your
I just did my
enemy
taxes
media
today,
companies.
and I am going to get about $40 more on my tax refund. That'll definitely outweigh the hundreds to thousands of dollars extra I have to spend on groceries a year.
Indeed not, Smart. Thank you for the $5 dono. But yeah, like, people are going to notice this hurting them, but they're also going to notice the fact that, like, all of the media is now being controlled by one family. That's surely the sign of a healthy democracy, right? Just in case you are wondering what all is going to be controlled by the Ellisons, they're going to control Paramount. They're going to control Paramount, Warner Brothers Discovery, Oracle, TikTok, CBS, CNN, HBO, MTV, TCM, TNT, Adult Swim, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, DC Studios, Showtime, Nickelodeon, Paramount Plus. They're going to be effectively running The Daily Show, basically Star Trek, South Park, DC Comics, Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Looney Tunes. And did the Warner Brothers bid get approved? Netflix is bowing out of the deal, so at this point, the only contender is the Ellisons. And the Trump administration is not going to block that. Yeah, it's going to be a sizable chunk of your media in the mainstream, you know? It's going to be very, very bad. And I also have to say, if things are gonna go, if things are going well, I don't think you have an interaction like this.
Governor Whitmer posted on social media that they're planning to steal the 2026 midterm elections. In fact, he says the plan is already underway. How do you respond to Governor Pritzker?
Well, he's got to focus on crime in his state. The crime in his state's doing very badly. If we went and took care of it, what we would do, just like Washington, D.C., we have no crime. Memphis, it's down 82%. Louisiana, you take a look at Louisiana, what he should really do is focus on crime in his state because there's too much of it.
So, in case you had trouble hearing that, he got asked about Governor J.B. Pritzker saying that Donald Trump was trying to steal the 2026 midterm election. And instead of saying no, he said, well, he better focus on crime in his state, which, again, is not a denial, which is not something that happens when you're doing something right.
THST is my favorite response I've ever heard from Trump.
Well, we're about to get to the next clip, so you're a little ahead of us, but thank you for the $5 dono, Nathan. Here's the next clip of, signs that things are definitely going really well.
National emergency around the midterm elections. There's been reporting that there's an executive order, proposed executive order about this. Are you looking at that? Are you considering that? What about national emergency around the midterm elections?
What an interesting answer. Are you considering declaring a national emergency around the midterm elections? And his response is, who told you that? Not a no, not a denial. Like, he's asked multiple times about stealing the midterm elections, and he doesn't deny it any of the times, except when he perks his ears up at, who told you that? Like, his brain is soup, and he's given away the entire game. Given away the entire game. And one last thing, which is, we know that he's going to try to take the midterms. He's going to try some shit. All right? He's going to try some shit. And we know this because Democracy Docket actually got a copy of the emergency executive order that he's planning on signing later this year. And apparently, top Democrats have gotten copies as well. Hakeem Jeffries, of course, coming out and saying it's bad. Once again, the president appears intent on manufacturing conspiracy theories so Republicans can desperately cling to power, and their extreme agenda is being overwhelmingly rejected by the American people. I'm sorry, this is like the weakest response I can possibly imagine to like a fucking civil war starting power grab, which is what is being alleged here, but okay. The draft of the order, which is said to be based on a conspiracy theory that China interfered with the 2020 election, would allow Trump to unilaterally ban mail-in ballots and voting machines on the basis that they are susceptible to foreign interference. The order comes from MAGA activists who have been coordinating with the White House. One of the advocates for the order is Peter Tickton, the attorney for Tina Peters, the former GOP Colorado County clerk, who is currently serving a 9-year state prison sentence for her role in a 2021 voting systems breach. In an email to Democracy Docket, Tickton provided a legal memo that outlines how exactly he believes the president has the constitutional authority to declare an emergency and seize control of elections, which is said to be the basis for the draft emergency order. Experts have shredded the order's reasoning. I have worked on 264 legal cases and matters against the Trump administration, including helping secure the injunction to stop his first executive order on elections. Norm Eisen, the executive chair of State Democracy Defenders Fund, and a former Obama administration official said in a statement. If he tries this, it will be 265. This is unconstitutional and insane. And I feel like that really just kind of sums things up here because, one, we know he's going to try shit. We know that. But our job is to show up on election day anyway and vote. If they try to ban, mail-in votes, if they try to ban voting machines, our job is to show the fuck up even harder. Okay? Like, that's it, full stop. Our job doesn't really change. However, I will say that it's worth pointing out here that the legal basis for this is absolute dog shit. Like, I'm sorry, even declaring a national emergency does not give the president the authority or the power to cancel elections. This is the kind of power grab that, like, gets, people executed for treason. Like, to be fully transparent with you guys. So that's kind of where we're at here. We are at the level of, like, panic within the Trump White House, within the Trump administration, within the Republican Party, where Republicans are coming out and just being like, yeah, we'll save ourselves by making people do the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll save ourselves with the Star-Spangled Banner. That'll make us popular again. Oh, yeah. Oh, look. Let them eat proteins. None of this is going to help them. And the fact that our soup-brained president, even in his, mental stupor, is able to be like, wait, yes, I am planning on declaring a national emergency. Oh, who told you that? Like, that tells you even he, in his soup-brained status, is aware that this is that he's right now being devastated. The public does not like him. The Epstein files are closing in. Like, he's being walled in on every conceivable avenue that he wanted to take, and it's, I'm sure, not very comfortable for him. And you know what? I think that's lovely. So we're in for a scary time in the immediate future, but that doesn't change our job. We have to organize. We have to get enough of us together that we are ready for whatever kind of bullshit he and this administration throw at us. Okay? We need to be able to do that. Bill Clinton is calling Trump the Epstein class. Do you know how far it is for Bill Clinton to say that? Exactly. Like, the polls have all shifted against him. The attitude of the American public has shifted against him. And I think we should take some heart in that, while using that to fuel ourselves to even greater acts of organization. So, all that being said, folks, show up for your local communities, show up at meetings, show up at your local DSA, show up at your local Dems, get to work. Please, I beg of you. Make your local Democrats more radical, make your local DSA more effective. If you need help, join our Discord, reach out to Gamergy for help organizing your DSA, reach out to your local Dems for help, reach out to Dragonfly for help making your local Dems more progressive. And let's use the democratic levers of power that are available to us in order to represent our best interests. If you're one of those people who's like, well, but the money is gonna speak louder than me. Money has always spoken louder than the little guy. Money spoke louder than working class people at company towns. All right? But guess what? Working class people banded together, and now we don't have to live in a goddamn company town anymore. But it's our job as working class people to get our shit together, organize, and show the fuck up for our communities. So that's what I'm asking you to do now, and that's what I'm going to be asking you guys to do when it comes to the elections too. And please, for the love of God, don't complain about the fact that it's going to be an uphill battle. It's always been an uphill battle. It was an uphill battle when Marx wrote that you have nothing to lose but your chains, and it's still an uphill battle today. But guess what? The battle continues. So that being said, last but not least, check out ImogeneOlivia.com, gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes. Link down in the doobly-doo. Go check it out, and let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack,